Okay, so I'm going to talk about how I came up with my tongue jack for my trailer. I used parts from a tripod that I removed the top, mounted it to my truck. When I rolled it, it snapped the screw off. So instead of throwing it out, I decided to use the telescopic leg to try and make a tongue jack for my trailer. One of the first things I used was a 3/16 by about a 4-inch long bolt. Now what I did was I put the bolt into my drill, put a file on the end, and ground it down to fit inside the inner leg, like so. It's not a super tight fit, just ever so slightly smaller. And then what I had to do was I took a 1.5 inch by 3/16 screw, and I used two nuts, and what I did was I had to grind the outside of the nut to fit inside both parts of ends of the jack. One for this one, which is the main, and one for this one, which is the leg itself. So I locked the nut on, just thread it till it bottoms out into your drill like so, and take a file, put your drill in reverse, and just hold the file to it and grind it down. Remove very little material when you start getting close to the diameter you need for it to fit inside, and when you're done, they'll look like this. I don't know if you can see that. The second one, what you want to do is the same thing. One for the main tube and another one for the leg. Now the leg, you leave the threads as normal, and the one on the main tube, I drilled the threads out and made it. I chopped the bolt down and ground down the end of it flat, and then I drilled a little hole in the end. That's where the handle's gonna go. It out. You'll have to do this on your own because I just kind of winged it. But once you get the length of everything that you need, what I did was I ground down a little groove here for a C-clip. Now I don't know if you'll be able to see that C-clip very well, but yeah, two C-clips. One goes underneath, and the nut that you drilled out the threads on is going to sit on top of that, and then the second C-clip locks in over top, so that this is going to just spin inside. So when you find the right outer diameter, you're just going to basically, you want it a really tight fit, and you want to press that in so that it doesn't move. I don't know if you can see that, but this one's already been pressed in. There's a nut inside there. So this is going to be facing the bottom, towards the bottom of the foot, and this will go up through the top where the nut is. So the nut would be the top portion of the leg, and it's just basically going to thread into that nut. That's basically it. When you turn the handle, the nut's going to draw up, or it's going to push down, will drop through. Now, one important thing, this tube is quite a bit smaller than this one. They fit very loose. So the bottom of this one is flared to make it a tight fit on this tube. but the top uses little plastic spacers. Now, one thing I noticed was spacers make it snug enough that this leg is almost hard to it's almost hard to turn when it's inside this other tube. And that worked out to my advantage because I don't have any splines or anything on here to stop this from spinning once it's assembled. I don't want to turn the nut and just have the leg spin and do nothing. It's got to stay relatively straight so that it'll travel in and out. So it's very important that you keep those spacers and cut your length from the bottom that you need. So I'll put the spacers in. There's like 2 little holes that these little notches fit in. Right there. Squeeze them in. There we go. It's a pretty snug fit. There's no play. So now this piece is going to go on top of that one, and the second one goes on top of that collar. Like so. So the collar should roll relatively easily. Now comes the fun part. Okay, so after some fumbling around and a little bit of a battle it was, but I got it together. There we go. So now I'm going to use the original foot that was on the legs. What I did was I chopped a little bit down, make it a little bit shorter. It fits kind of loose, so I'm just going to drill a hole through it. Probably put a little screw there or something to hold that in place. Okay, so my good old friends, the poppet rivet, becomes the little spinny handle on my jack. I just used some thick copper wire and bent it to shape. So there you go. And you can see how the jack's going to work. It seems to function quite well. I'm quite pleased with it. It's a little bit thicker than I wanted for the scale of my trailer, but as long as it functions, that's all I care. Thank you very much. Hope you can use some of these ideas. Bye.